Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and finally we can sit down to discuss all of the events that have transpired over the course of another huge weekend in the Scottish Premiership. A weekend that was just as big as the last, and a weekend that was just as big as the next. A cup final for Celtic, and one they done pretty well in. 3-0 winners over Hearts, Rangers 4-1 winners over Kilmarnock today. The league table remains pretty much the same, but we've got a lot to talk about, so let's do that. If you haven't already, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. It would be much appreciated as we try and get towards 50,000 subs this year. So drop down below, hit both of those buttons. I once again apologise for the match reaction being late. I know it's 2 weeks in a row where that's been the case. We will be back to normal from now until the end of the season though. I had a stag do yesterday. There wasn't much I could do about it to get a match reaction up. So it's here and it's late. I decided to wait until the Rangers game finished today in case anything major happened. Sadly, nothing major really happened. But we're here anyway to talk about Celtic's win over Hearts yesterday and the wider ramifications on the title race itself. It's getting down to the nitty gritty, and as this weekend concludes, it means that we head into a really nervy week going into the derby. But listen, after yesterday, I'm feeling pretty good. Celtic 3, Hearts 0. I managed to catch the extended highlights of the game when I got home last night, and finally I can sit here and talk about it and give my opinion to the game. I gutter that I've missed it, and I put this tweet up yesterday talking about my luck this season. I've missed 3 big games, and 3 of our best games and performances this season. The 4-1 win against Hibs back in December, the Feyenoord game, which was our first Champions League home win in a decade, and then arguably our best performance of the season yesterday. A lot of people dubbing this as the first game where I think that we have been fantastic from start to finish. There hasn't been, an extended period in the game where we were really poor. Celtic yesterday were good, and they went up against a good Hearts side as well. A Hearts side that came to Celtic Park with a point to prove and a game to win in their own right, and a game they certainly tried to win. I said this in the match preview the other day. If there was any team who could stop Celtic from lifting a league title, I reckon Hearts would prefer to do it rather than Rangers. I genuinely think that Hearts would love to be the team that would stop that, and you could see that with the opening exchanges at Celtic Park yesterday. We were brilliant yesterday against a side, as I said, who were trying really hard to get the job done. They pulled out all the stops to try and score early on in the game. They continued to go for it throughout the game. We were forced to defend well and also take our chances when they were given. Zander Clark pulled out one of the best performances he'll probably have in his career yesterday with the saves that he was making. You could tell he was desperate to stop Celtic from taking even further an advantage in the title race. So Celtic had all the job to do ahead of them yesterday, and we really took that in our stride, both on and off the field. Yesterday, I'm so sad I missed out on it, because by all accounts, from what I'm hearing and from what I was able to see in the highlights of the game, Celtic Park was at its absolute best, at their finest form, the supporters yesterday. It felt like the good old days at Celtic Park. I've seen people comparing it to the Martin O'Neill era or the Gordon Strachan era, where it just felt like there was a top-notch atmosphere within the stadium, one that hasn't peaked like that in quite a long time. If you take away derby games and European games, for your normal week-to-week Scottish Premiership match, I feel like that was an atmosphere and a noise at Celtic Park that we haven't felt in a long time, and that's probably down to the fact that we are now in the final few games of a very important title race. But Celtic were raising the fans to doing that by creating chances, by being entertaining on the ball, just generally being a far better side on the eye. And every challenge that was won, every shot that was taken, every save that was made by Joe Hart was met with a thunderous reception from the Celtic supporters, and that yesterday made the game even better to be at. No, I'm not jealous at all. Just, you can't tell, can you? But, this is the kind of atmosphere that the club, the fans need to generate for the players, and the players need to feed off now for the final few games. We've got 2 more games at Celtic Park. We've got that derby next week. We've got the final game of the season against St Mirren as well. So they're 2 huge games where I'm sure the crowd will be in absolute top form. But yesterday Celtic were just so good from back to front. I just felt like it was a different Celtic side, a side that was feeding off confidence that has been growing week in, week out. And Brendan Rodgers kind of echoed that in his post-match comments. The sentiment of what he was saying was that, you know, things are good at the minute, the players are feeling good, the team are feeling good. And now that's hopefully resonating through the supporters as we try and push into these final few games. It was a tall task yesterday, and they rose to that. So let's try and go through the game as we should. Kyogo back in goal scoring form. You love to see it, and what a way to settle the nerves round Celtic Park by getting a goal basically at the start of the game. A few minutes in, he opens the score and he meets the ball very well to guide it into the back of the net. And listen, I know it's been a kind of stop-start season for Kyogo. He's not been on top form from day one to where we are now. He's kind of had purple patches and then games where he's dropped off for a couple. But if he's going to pop up now in the run-in towards the end of the season and contribute goals, that'll do us. I'm not going to complain about it, I tell you that for nothing. But it's a really good finish for the first goal. Getting himself onto the end of the ball like he does, because I think a lot of times you see those kind of balls come in and players, you know, they meet it with a glancing header, it goes wide, or they miss the ball completely. It's instinctive from Kyogo. It's what he does at his absolute best to put us up 1-0. He then obviously gets the second as well, which puts us in a commanding position. And you've got to remember in that first half, and it goes from the very start of the game, because Hearts really early on could have scored. We had to defend well, we had to set up well, but Joe Hart had once again a man of the match type performance, a player of the season-esque performance with the saves he was pulling off yesterday throughout the first and second half. He made some huge saves yesterday, Joe Hart, and he deserves all the credit in the world for that, because he's somebody who, we've overlooked at points over the past couple of years when people have been criticising him or getting right down on his back for things. You know, he's pulled out these massive saves time after time across the course of this season. And when it comes to the end of the season, the last kick of the ball, when it's the last game, I think that we're all going to have to sit down and applaud Joe Hart for his contribution and his efforts this season for what he's done, because some of these saves have been match winning and they have been game changing. So yesterday, contributing with another one of those performances was absolutely huge. I think that he's kept us in it in the first half. Well, not kept us in it. I think that makes me sound like I'm not giving the team the credit they deserve for how well they played in the first half. But I think Hearts could have changed that game if a couple of their opportunities hit the back of the net, and Joe Hart deserves a hell of a lot of credit for that. We were just clicking in all fronts yesterday. I think that we looked good in the midfield, especially. Callum McGregor looked back to his best, and I don't want to speak too soon ahead of a big derby game and say that's him, he's back, he's 100%, whatever. I think that you could still say McGregor still has a bit to go till he's 100%. But yesterday's performance through the first and the second half, I think, showed you that Callum McGregor is, you know, ready to put the doubters to bed and put all of that aside to contribute what is going to be captain fantastic performances from now till the end of the season. So we had ourselves in a nice dominant position going into that second half. I think Celtic could have easily had more goals as well. The amount of chances we were creating was unbelievable. It was just really good, and we were rewarded with our patience from a lot of the missed opportunities when we got into the second half. Second half, I think it was just more of the same for Celtic. We ramped up the pressure on Hearts, and we tried to find more goals, and as I kind of alluded towards the end of the last segment in the video, we had to be patient to find that third goal. It came through a penalty very late in the game. A fantastic finish from Matt O'Reilly, I must say, but we've got to talk about the Shankland handball. How does it get sent to VAR? They try their best, the SFA and the referees, don't they? They really do try their best. And I don't know how it's had to take a VAR decision to end up dubbing it a penalty or whatever. But, I mean, it's the clearest handball you're ever going to see. Shankland even knows. You see it in Shankland's face when, you know, the whistle goes for VAR or the ball goes out of play, whenever it is. You see the camera going at him, and he knows straight away what's happened and what he's just done. But it's fantastic from Matt O'Reilly. It's a great finish. Somebody who yesterday was unbelievable. I've not even touched on the pass. That pass, listen, if Kevin De Bruyne makes that pass, it's getting showed time after time on Match of the Day or Sky Sports or on social media. It's going viral, the quality of pass. That's a Kevin De Bruyne-esque pass from Matt O'Reilly yesterday to find Kyogo, someone who has been questioned from January if he's still been as good, if he's been as consistent as what he was in the opening half of the season. I think in recent weeks you've seen Matt O'Reilly back to his absolute best, and that yesterday was a vintage O'Reilly performance, a vintage O'Reilly pass to the head of Kyogo, and he's finishing the penalty. It just makes me wonder, where are these, when I look at that and I look at the penalty shootout against Aberdeen a couple of weeks ago, it makes me wonder, I'm like, how on earth where have we been hiding these quality of penalties? We've not been able to hit them for the last 2 years. We've been terrible, and every time we get a penalty, I almost wish that we didn't get one. And Matt O'Reilly steps up and blasts it into the net just like that. Anyway, it's a fantastic win for Celtic. It's a huge result for us. Hearts are a team who, of course, are solidified as the third best in this country. They've beaten us twice this season, both at Tynecastle and at Celtic Park. And the way that Celtic went into that game yesterday, and the way that they dominated at times, and the chances that created, how good they were overall, and the feeling that it brought to Celtic Park as well, the fact that we're leaving all saying that that was our best performance of the season, is a real testament to the confidence that has been built in recent weeks, the quality that we've been producing in recent weeks, and ultimately where the manager and this group of players have dragged us to through a very hard campaign, a campaign where we haven't been great by any stretch of the imagination. I know the biggest criticism is, why is it taking so long to get to this point where we can deliver a performance like that at Celtic Park? Why is it taking till match day 35 for us to do that? But it's, the main thing is we have done it. The main thing is we've pulled ourselves to a position where we can produce a performance like that. I think it's really good signs for next season, especially with some players picking up a bit of form as well. But we've got to just build from it. We've got to use it going into next week, which is what we've got to talk about now. Brendan Rodgers used the quote that next week we can have a bit of fun, which has been met with a very weird sort of reaction online. I must say, Celtic fans loving it, as you should. I'm looking forward to a bit of fun next week. But Rangers fans, dubbing him arrogant and ignorant to them and all the rest of it. Listen, if you don't know Brendan Rodgers by now, you never will. He's a wind-up merchant. He's a patter merchant. He loves that kind of comment. And I love it as well, because I love Brendan Rodgers, and he's well placed to be making those comments. People say, I've seen a lot of people, Rangers supporters, saying that, if it wasn't for, Celtic wouldn't even be top of the league if it wasn't for us dropping X and Y points here and us beating them. So what you're saying is we wouldn't be top of the league if you weren't shite, which is are. It's a very bizarre rebuttal to have. You can't exactly say, you wouldn't be top if ifs and buts were candy and nuts. We all know the saying. And Celtic have taken advantage. Celtic allowed Rangers into the title race. We have been in control at numerous points throughout the season. There was only one point where we dropped behind and Rangers couldn't hack the pressure. And that's why Celtic are top now heading into this game. And let's be real, we can talk about fun, we can talk about Rangers not being as good as Celtic, which they aren't, but it doesn't matter because next week form goes out the window. This is the biggest derby in a long, long time. And I know we just said that about the one at Ibrox back at the start of April, but this is it now. Your mettle is tested, and the players need to produce what they produced yesterday against Hearts. This can't be Jekyll and Hyde stuff. This is where the character of this team is really, really going to be tested. We've got a 3-point advantage. Sadly, Kilmarnock going down to 10 men today means that it couldn't have been any better off than 3, which is frustrating, but it's what it is, and I expected Rangers to win today as well, being at Ibrox and having that advantage. But next week, we need to keep up that standard from what we produced yesterday. We need to make sure that we don't leave that game any less off than what we are. Rangers could equal it up. Rangers could make it a level table heading into game 37, the penultimate game of the season. We don't want a helicopter Sunday scenario. If Celtic leave next week still 3 clear of Rangers, we are firm favourites, but we could leave 6 clear of Rangers. We could leave effectively champions. That's how it would feel, because I think it would be too far for Rangers to recover. I think we're about 6 or 7 goals clear of them in the league table right now. So if we win next week and we're 6 points clear with 2 to go, with an advantage on goal difference and goals scored, what a position to be in, and that needs to be remembered as we head into that game. So it's all eyes on the prize, and we're going to cover it all this week, so don't worry, there's no going to be any lack of coverage for that game. We're going to talk about every sort of angle and possible story heading into it as the week unfolds. So yeah, just stick around, but I want to batter them next week. And if I seen anything from that Celtic team yesterday that gives me confidence, it was the whole game. The whole game gave me confidence that we can battle Rangers next week. I'm not saying that's going to happen, because I know Rangers Rangers fans love to clip things. I'm no saying that's going to happen, but Celtic have it in their locker to do it. Ultimately, it's only winning that matters to me. I couldn't care if it's 1-0 or 6-0. I just want to win the game. But they showed us yesterday what they can do. And I think we're much better than them. And I think we've showed that this season, considering they haven't beat us once. Keep that in mind. They haven't beat us one time. So we're in a good position. I can't wait. Let's get it going. Thank you for listening, watching, whatever today. It's much appreciated. We're back on the channel tomorrow to begin the build up towards that derby next weekend. So like and subscribe to stay updated. Thank you for your patience waiting for the reaction to this weekend as well. It's much obliged. Anyway, take care. God bless. And I'll see you all next time.